Historically speaking, tabla is in fact an accompanying instrument. That's its primary function. So you have to understand that tabla is a very young instrument. It's only come into its own in the last 130, 140 years, and it is still developing its own repertoire. Up till about 80, 90 years ago, it was borrowing from the Pakhavaj repertoire. So tabla repertoire was in that sense limited. Whatever the Delhi Gharana people came up with, some interesting finger technique to play qaidas and stuff, that was about the limit of it. But now, in recent times, there has been development in the last 60, 70 years and focus on developing a tabla repertoire. So therefore, now it has become possible since the advent of great masters like Ustad Zakir Hussain, Habibuddin Khan Sahab, and then later on people like my father, Pandit Shamta Prasad ji, Pandit Kishan Maharaj ji, and all that, the solo tabla has gained popularity and has become one of the looked for items in music festivals and so on. So, but it's in the last 20 years or 25 years that it has really taken hold, because what has happened is there have been many young tabla players who are able to perform tabla solo, and in a way where it connects with the audience. That's what's happening. There are so many great tabla players now. I mean, Sapan Chaudhary ji, Anindo bhai, Sabir bhai, Kumar Bose ji, Shubhankar bhai, my own brother Fazal, and Satyajit and Aditya and Yogesh Samsi, and it's just amazing that there are so many great tabla players around at the same time. And that's made it possible for the tabla to be able to develop its own audience. And because of that, we are able to get that many more solo concerts. And in the last 25, 30 years, there has been a concerted effort to be able to develop a special, unique tabla repertoire, which is not just relying on one gharana or one style or one school, but sort of is a concoction of all the elements of tabla that exists in India, and therefore the repertoire has expanded. In the old days, Delhi players would not play Meerut, or Meerut players would not play Lucknow, or Lucknow players would not play Banaras, or etc. etc. But now you have tabla players who are able to draw upon all the compositions and repertoire from each of these schools. So the individual's repertoire has expanded, and therefore the solo has become a much more valid and exciting performance, and that's what's happening. But again, coming back, the primary function of a tabla is to be an accompanist. The disadvantage of what's happening now is that most of the students are being trained to play tabla solo. They are not being trained to be accompanists. And that's where we have to find a fine balance as to how to be able to prepare them to be soloists, but at the same time prepare them to be good accompanists.